Hello, welcome to another blog reading. It's the end of September and I hope everybody is well, and we are going to again do some rheumatology learning and some things that I have found interesting across the internet, which I think that therapists should know and hopefully help us be better at helping these patients. So this blog is entitled Rheumatoid Arthritis and Muscle Loss. It's not that often that a paper comes along that changes my practice, but this particular one will. I've known for a number of years that rheumatoid arthritis patients are at risk of muscle loss due to the systemic nature of the inflammatory process. This is similar to other conditions such as diabetes. This paper provides more detail, and I'll outline that as well as the change to practice I propose in this blog. Rheumatoid arthritis features in my Rheumatology at a Glance booklet and online course. Please do consider checking out my shop on my website, rheumatology.physio/shop, for further learning resources to help you with your clinical knowledge and to help support me to continue providing these blogs and videos and other such learning materials. As usual, feedback is greatly appreciated, and any further reading for me, please do send it my way. Also, as usual, please remember, this blog is not a replacement for clinical reasoning. If you are unsure, get advice. Introduction. The paper in question, and I'll read the reference at the end, was interesting and clever in its design. The numbers used were quite small, but then it was quite a logistical undertaking with each patient, so I understand this. The researchers split them into groups: newly diagnosed rheumatoid arthritis, active rheumatoid arthritis, and remission rheumatoid arthritis, plus they had a control group. The definitions of these groups don't really matter for our purposes and are rather self-explanatory. The researchers measured strength of knee extension, knee flexion, and grip. They also used quantitative MRI to look at muscle bulk in the groups. The aim was to find out if there were between-group differences. This is particularly interesting because I suspect many outside the sphere of rheumatology think rheumatoid arthritis is purely a joint-related problem, and the results of this paper highlight the widespread systemic nature of the disease. We need to think much more broadly as therapists to treat multiple areas of concern. Joint disease, muscle strength will affect function, and further afield, rheumatoid arthritis affects the cardiovascular system, and we need to consider this in our treatment plans and referrals. Results. The researchers showed, admittedly with the small numbers, that muscle volume and strength was lower than controls in all the categories. This was lower than controls even in the new rheumatoid arthritis group, suggesting the process of muscle loss and weakness begins very early in disease. Muscle volume and strength does improve once in clinical remission, however does not reach the levels of the control group. So what's the clinical relevance for therapists? Muscle volume and strength can be the domain of therapists to improve, and may well be a necessity as clinical remission is not sufficient enough to return these measures to normal. I would advise that all rheumatoid arthritis patients, regardless of disease activity, receive a personalised exercise, loading or activity programme to help address these likely deficits, along with probably some education as to why they have to do it. Further to this, all people suspected of having rheumatoid arthritis, and let's be honest, any inflammatory arthritis, we could probably extrapolate these results across into inflammatory spinal conditions, connective tissue disorders, etc., should be encouraged to maintain activity as far as able to limit the loss of muscle volume and strength, and or have a concurrent referral for an exercise loading or activity program while awaiting diagnosis to try and get ahead of the curve. It might also be appropriate to discuss protein intake as a way of mitigating muscle volume and strength loss. This can be done by yourself as the therapist if you're confident enough, or by appropriate referral if not. Conclusion. It may be argued that this is excessive, but I think I disagree, obviously, as I've just spent 20 minutes writing a blog about it. I don't believe it would take many resources to implement. It's mostly advice, in all honesty, and if a patient is particularly lacking confidence, then a referral through to physiotherapy, sports therapy, or wherever they get their strengthening program. And maintaining or even increasing muscle volume could have a significant effect on many health and functional outcomes. Remember, it's not just short-term outcomes we're looking at here. Cardiovascular outcomes in the long-term function, return to work, all these different things are going to be affected. I hope similar studies are conducted in this fashion in the future. One where they compare those who went through an exercise program and those that didn't would be awesome. If there are any researchers reading or listening to this, I should be so lucky. Thank you for reading, and please do consider looking at my shop to support my efforts. My blogs will remain free for those willing to read them, and of course I'll read them all out to put onto these podcasts as well. Please do get me any feedback so that I can grow and improve, and I'll see you next time for the next blog read. The reference is titled Muscle Deterioration Due to Rheumatoid Arthritis, Assessment by Quantitative MRI and Strength Testing in the journal Rheumatology. And the authors include Matthew Farrow, John Biglands, Stephen Tanner, Elizabeth Henser, Maya Booch, Paul Emery, Aylin Tan, who I have to admit is where I get many of my journal articles from on Twitter. And if you go to the webpage on the blog, you can find the link to it as well. So thank you very much for listening. Please do subscribe so you get notifications of my next releases, and do go ahead and take a look at my website. See you next time.